Welcome to the Beyond Jiu-Jitsu podcast. This is episode 142. I'm your co-host, Kieren Lefebvre, joined by black belt gym owner, very tall human, Adam Childs.
What's up, Kieren? What's going on, my man? All the way from Sweden.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, man. I know. It's funny. Like we prior to you moving, we were saying how it'll be really cool because we won't be training together every day, and so the podcast will be a good opportunity to catch up on training and this and that. But we've had so many classes prior to the move that have just been, this is what's happening in Adam and Kieran's life. That the last few we've recorded, I've tried to even avoid asking so man, what's been going on? How's training?
Exactly.
How's life
it's just
in Sweden?
Like a catch-up session.
Yeah,
I mean, the OGs might appreciate it. They might be interested because there's, it's our classic style of Beyond Jiu-Jitsu with a bit of Jiu-Jitsu sprinkled in. But yeah, people getting this for the first time are like, who are these guys?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And every time I say something like, imagine if this is someone's first episode. I shit you not, I always get a message like, that was my first episode.
Yeah, right. Well, I'll give a quick shout out to Cass, who's one of our listeners. I messaged you and told you about this, Kieren, but last week there was in Sydney, there's a gym. They're called Grappling Education. Here in Sydney, and they do these fortnightly sort of internal competitions that they stream live on YouTube and whatever. And one of my students, Tima, she was fighting on it. So I went out there, and this girl came up to me. She's like, "Hey, you're Adam, I'm Cass." And I was like, "Oh, hey Cass, lovely to meet you." And then I was like, "What? Where do we know each other from?" She's like, "Oh, wait, sorry, we don't. That's a bit weird." "Oh yeah, listen, I've messaged you heaps of times on Instagram, the podcast, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, sick. And, and
so
she
awesome.
she was fighting on the card as well. And, I say this all the time. I really like it. I really appreciate it when people, at the end of the day, I'm pretty confident in being a nobody and pretty happy.
Yeah, you're very good at it. You're very experienced at it, I would say.
I'm very experienced at it. And, but I appreciate it. And I always have time for anyone who wants to say hello. It's not like it happens all the time, but yeah. And then Cass fought on the card, and she unfortunately didn't get the win, but she was super aggressive. It was a blue belt match.
Oh,
but
nice.
She was just man in her face and her posture. She was ready for war. So it was good. Yeah. But,
that's hectic.
Yeah. So
No,
been trying
really
to
cool.
avoid
the grapple manias. Yeah.
Yeah. Been trying to avoid the just let's talk about why Kieran's so tired and moving house and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I know we started and you said you're a little bit sick, but have you still settling into your training routine?
Yeah, I've pretty much established the routine. It's fucking good. I've met a bunch of the guys now. Good group of people. We have some podcast listeners and YouTube watchers amongst them, which is cool.
Oh, sick.
What happened, I don't think they listen to the podcast, but this guy was like, "Do you make YouTube videos?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I think I've seen you on Jordan Teaches Jiu-Jitsu." So I'm like, "Oh yeah, that was me." Yeah.
Well, you must be murking them because I haven't
cool.
gotten any messages from you yet being like, "Man, this happened and what do I do?" Or so you just put some smash on or what? You got to be careful. They listen. You just said so. You can't dump shit on them, can you? That wouldn't be too nice.
No, the good group of humans. Really awesome
have you
training.
met? Have you met up in person with the guy, the English guy who also lives in Sweden?
I did. Yeah. Notice the fresh cut, the fresh haircut. Yeah. So I Stuart.
Was that in
British barber?
In anticipation of meeting up with Stuart?
No, he did the haircut.
He's actually a barber.
He's a barber.
No way.
Yes, the British barber on Instagram. He's British barber Falun. So shout out to if you're in Dalarna, which is like a county, if you will. It's not a state, but like a county in Sweden. If you're in Dalarna, you're near Falun, you have to go see Stuart, the British barber. He's a legend. He'll give you the freshest cuts you could ever imagine.
sounds like
not a paid.
Sounds like a fight name. It's like we've got a guy at the gym,
It could be.
which obviously his name's Chris. and everyone's like calls him Chris the Butcher. He's a big 100-kilo guy, and everyone's like,
Yeah.
Chris the Butcher must be a
the
fucking
butcher.
murderer.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, he's a butcher.
He's
Like,
a
That's
butcher.
what he does. That's his job.
Yeah. Stuart the barber.
Yeah, Stuart the barber.
You must be efficient.
Yeah, nice. Oh, good. You're
Yeah,
training.
but shout
Good
out to
sick
Stuart.
now.
Really. Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Look,
speaking
I've
of
been on and off
training,
sick, I think fucking whatever. Yeah. Sorry.
Speaking of training, yeah. So I wanted to talk a little bit about cardio / conditioning, specifically for jiu-jitsu, and the reason that this topic came to mind to talk about it was because I had the guys at the gym go through the guys. It was a super small class. How many of us? There was like only 4 of us or something. Super small class, and one of the guys is competing on Sunday. By the time this episode comes out, like in 2 days' time, and I was like, man, it's not fair that like it's easy to train really hard when it's like a packed class and the atmosphere and the energy's really high. It's way harder when it's a small class. And I was like, it's not fair that just because it's a small class, like Hugo doesn't get some really tough training, which he needs in preparation of the comp. So this was last week. Man, I've never seen someone puke so much from exercise. Like I've seen people puke more than that from alcohol or whatever, but I've never.
Yeah. I get you.
When I say see, it's not like I stood there watching him, but like hearing him puke out the back of the gym, like not on the mats, didn't puke on the mats or anything crazy like that. But dude, like
Well, we've
so
had some
much.
people spit blood on the mats before, so I wouldn't be.
Yeah, you and Toby go to war, spat blood like it was an MMA fight. Yeah.
And I stood in it.
But yeah, I wanted to kind of go down that route. So I thought the best approach would be that you can be the scientific mind and, a bit more of the medical reasoning, scientific reasoning
as to why people vomit.
Yeah, and like lactic acid and all that sort of stuff and how your body learns, how you train your body to deal with lactic acid and all these sorts of things. Whereas I've obviously got a whole stack of different cardio drills / workouts that, I'll be lying if I say I still do them all the time, but definitely did them all the time when I was
cardio.
I know.
The whole time, no, you've never done cardio.
Still
Not a
smash your
single time.
face. Still smash.
Yeah, just lay on me, you bastard.
Well, I think we said this in a few episodes ago. So our last roll before you left for Sweden, you just came out so hard, and I remember it was whatever it was, 1 minute, 2 minutes into the round, and I remember thinking to myself, oh man, if Kieren keeps this up, this pace, like I'm gonna start crumbling. Like in my head, I was like, things are gonna start going bad for me because I was getting real tired. But then, luckily, at that same time, you also started to slow down, and I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, I think you broke me. I think you got it was that sprawl. It was that sprawl that broke
you
me.
mentioned that sprawl.
It wasn't so much like I was tired, but I think I was like. In my mind, I was thinking, hey, if I keep going at him really hard, he's just going to like fucking pump me. Like I got to slow down and be more strategic in my approach. But it was the opposite. I need to go harder.
Yeah.
If I could read your mind. Anyway, so let's talk about the vomit response.
Sorry, let's go with that first. Yeah, vomit response.
So I did a little bit of Googling, and I mean, have you ever vomited from hard training before? Have you ever had a puke?
Never. I've been the closest I ever was back back when I was a blue belt preparing for selectives or something like that, and I had JT from Bulletproof doing this was before Bulletproof existed, so we've mentioned this in heaps of previous episodes that JT and I knew each other from over in Brazil. And he did all my S&C training, preparation, everything. And it was super ghetto, man. It was like workouts in a park and stuff. And I remember this one workout getting pushed so hard that I think like I really almost cried, hey. Like I was just so broken and defeated.
That's crazy, man.
Beyond And I remember he wouldn't let me sit down. He was like, you got to stand up and walk and blah, blah, blah. And I just, I
everyone needs a
I
JT
felt
in
like,
their life at least once.
I felt like, and Semi looked like, you know, when you see the footage of marathon runners, like their body literally just shutting down at near the finish line, or sometimes not even near the finish line, but at a point during a race. It was maybe not to that extreme, you know, where I physically, like, literally couldn't stand up, but it was, I would take 5-10 steps and need to sit down. But I've never puked from training. I don't know if that's something just to me, but I'm also one of those people that, I don't know if you ever had friends like who would, you know, get on the piss. Yeah, that's right.
That's such a dad joke. Sorry, go on.
You even had to take this friendship remote, didn't you, bro? Just
yeah, bro.
Like who would, if they're out drinking or something, could be like, uh-oh, puke, and then just like go back to partying or whatever.
I was that friend.
So that's not me, right? I'm one of those people that—
It's called a tactical vom. It's a tactical vomit.
A tactical vomit, yeah. I'm one of those people that
you're good.
Nah, I can't, man. If I get to the point of puking, I'm gone. Like, and let's just use—
He's weak.
Yeah, man, I'm like, that's it for me. If I'm puking, I'm full blown cold sweats. I'm like, I'm out of it. There's no coming back for me. So I don't know if, like, this guy who puked last night in training, he kind of puked and then came back and just kept training, you know, whereas I would have been—
That's how you do it.
I would have been done if I get to that point.
So
anyway, over to you. Vom response.
I have vomited once from training, and similar sort of situation to you, except slightly like different, obviously, context. I was doing, when I was about 19, or 18, 19, I was aiming to join the Navy, and my eventual plan was to go, like every young, red-blooded, fucking hot-headed guy that wants to join the defense force. I wanted to go special forces. So I wanted to go like clearance diver, and then from clearance diver try out for special forces. So my mate at the time was a personal trainer. He was a PT, also a younger guy, bit older than me, and he was training me up to join, not only get in, like to pass all the physical fitness, because I had already gotten into the Navy. So I was training up for that, but eventually getting me conditioned for special forces. And he put me through a series of these workouts that were fucking, to this day, I think it's not that the workouts were the hardest thing I've ever done. It was that my mentality going into it was to push as hard as I possibly could. I've never pushed harder in my life. And he was like, kind of like JT for you, standing there. I couldn't sit down. I couldn't have my hands on my head. I wasn't allowed to look tired. I couldn't look, you know, I had to pretend I was like still good to go. He was not screaming at me, but like motivating me. And yeah, after one of those sessions, it's the only time I've ever vomited. I went out the back stairs and just fucking puked. And he was like, yes.
He was like, my boy.
He was like, yeah, my boy. But yeah, still some of the best conditioning training I've ever done. So shout out to Jordan, my mate from Nui. I'll probably send him this. He's a teacher now. Lo and behold, he's a primary school teacher. So things change. Anyway,
yeah, no.
So why do people vomit?
I've never. Yeah, but why do people vomit?
There's a lot of different reasons. It's not necessarily, people don't like puke because you know, it was just a hard training. So it depends on the individual. Some people are more prone to it. So first and foremost, it's an individual sensitivity issue, meaning that maybe you're more susceptible to nausea, and some of the other factors that we're going to talk about provoke, and you know, that sort of clearing response, or that sort of nauseating response due to your, you know, unique body makeup or what have you. But the probably one of the more common is the intense nature of the exercise or the physical stress causes a fight or flight response. So because of all the adrenaline that's being dumped into your system, that fight or flight response basically evacuates everything. That's why, you know, people piss themselves in scary situations, right? Because it's a fight or flight, everything's being evacuated. A similar sort of response can trigger the clearing of the stomach as well, and which will basically induce nausea and make you vomit. Another reason. I'll
segue that little evacuation tidbit, right?
Yeah.
So did you know, and definitely international listeners, well, I'd be shocked if they knew because I don't think most people know this, but did you know that kangaroos, right, they like a female kangaroo is essentially like when they have a joey, like a baby kangaroo in their pouch, they have, excuse me, they have another fetus in reserve. So when a female kangaroo with a joey in her pouch is getting chased by, you know, whatever, a dingo or whatever is in threat, it will literally boot the joey out of its pouch, like yeet its own baby kangaroo out of its pouch so it can take off and hop away faster, and plus probably whatever it's chasing would just stop and eat the joey. And essentially the second it does
Damn.
that, the reserve fetus kicks into, you know, development.
Fuck, imagine being the bench warmer though. Damn.
Isn't that
That's crazy.
never getting called up to bat.
Yeah, fuck it out.
Yeah.
It's like you were praying for a dingo. God damn, eat my brother.
So it doesn't
All right, well,
make
shit.
yourself
There you
doesn't
go.
make puking and peeing yourself look too bad after that. But
Yeah, but like nervous poos, right? That's why, because your body's like preparing to evacuate everything. Yeah, fun fact. Blood flow restriction is another reason why you can vomit during like really intense exercise. So basically, it shifts blood away from your digestive system, which can cause like gastrointestinal discomfort and, you know, vomiting, right? Another reason could be dehydration. Or like, say, for example, if we combine a couple of these factors, maybe you're dehydrated, maybe in this case, Hugo, like sculled a bunch of water, right? So he's really dehydrated coming, or he's like slightly dehydrated coming into training. He's doing a really intense session. He's got dry mouth, which is a very, you know, common sign of dehydration. If you ever get cotton mouth after the first couple of rounds, you're dehydrated. And then he goes and smashes some Gatorade or smashes some water, combined with some blood flow restriction to his stomach, some adrenaline from the intense training. Maybe he's prone to being, you know, nausea. And then he's dehydrated and just smash all that water. All those factors combined, just comes straight back up, which is probably what happened.
well, no, more specifically, what happened is he ate sushi before class. But
okay, well, yeah,
but it wasn't
right.
like he.
So that's
it wasn't like
that's
he
stomach
ate
disturbance.
Wasn't like he ate an all-you-can-eat sushi platter 30 minutes before.
Yeah, he just
class,
ate. He was digesting something, right? So he was digesting something, and he had blood flow restriction to his stomach. So his body didn't have enough time to clear the food out of his system, or like at least start moving it along the journey, right? So there's no blood going to his gut effectively to deal with all the food that's sitting there, so it evacuates it. That's pretty much what happened. But yeah.
Well, then talk a little bit on the lactic acid side of things. So
It's not really related to vomiting.
No, like I was always told that lactic acid was that sort of, you know, lactic acid buildup contributed to that feeling of nauseousness and like you're going to be sick when you're working out or if you're training really hard. But
I mean, it does not directly cause you to vomit, but yeah, I mean, lactic acid buildup in itself will probably make you maybe feel a bit nauseated or maybe cause discomfort and like, you know, a bit of fatigue, but it's not actually one of the major contributing factors to why you vomit. That's why, like, if you look at generally the vomiting cases, like the most common time you see people vomit from exercise is endurance sport. And you'll always see them, they're super fatigued and they just smashed a bunch of water. So they have like a bunch of fluids sitting on their stomach and their stomach has like no blood to it. It's restricted. They have adrenaline and everything and they're dehydrated, blah, blah, blah. And they just vomit it up because they're literally like constantly moving, right? But from my understanding, it's not necessarily the lactic acid buildup in unto itself that's causing, vomiting from exercise.
Okay, so then let's go into
cause,
a little
obviously,
bit
fatigue, discomfort, you know.
Well, let's go into a little bit then what is lactic acid, and because it definitely is something that, you know, I actually don't really, when I stop and think about it, I actually don't really know at all the scientific workings of lactic acid, but it's definitely a buildup of lactic acid in your muscles, in your blood, that essentially makes you run out of energy, strength, whatever it is. Like I actually, obviously incorrectly, had an association with the nauseous feeling and whatever, and fatigue as a whole, but I actually don't know specifically what's going on.
Yeah, it definitely causes you to feel, it can cause you to feel nauseated, and it definitely is the cause of, you know, how you feel fatigued, or part of the cause of why you feel fatigued. And like every gym bro has heard like the lactic acid buildup or lactic acid in your muscle. When you're doing a rep, like if you're doing high volume work on lower weight, right? And you start really like pumping the weight, and then you feel that burning sensation in your muscles, that intense burning, that is lactic acid buildup, or otherwise known as lactate. So scientifically speaking, lactate or lactic acid is a byproduct of the metabolic process that produces ATP in your muscles. So ATP is the power, the currency of your cells, right? So think about whenever you do work, even as I'm talking now, as you're listening to this now, as you're just like moving around, your body is constantly burning ATP to do anything, right? To keep you alive. It's the energy currency of your cells. But when you introduce exercise, or any sort of intense exercise, or anything really, you increase the demand for that ATP to be produced. Now, there's a load of ways that ATP can be produced in the system. And fun fact, that is why creatine is such a beneficial supplement, because it increases your phosphocreatine stores, which is how your body gets access to ATP during short bursts of intense exercise. So when we talk about different energy systems for different exercises, that's what we're talking about, different energy systems to produce ATP. Now, when we're looking at lactic acid, it is formed through a process of during anaerobic glycolysis, or your anaerobic energy production. So we have aerobic and anaerobic. Aerobic simply means with oxygen, and anaerobic means without oxygen. I think the original terms are Latin. Anyway, fun fact, most medical terms are. But yeah, so it's lactic acid is a byproduct of your anaerobic process, or energy production process. And normally when you're going throughout the day, or if you just do one bench press, right? Even if it's, unless it's like your 1 rep max or whatever, but you probably won't have much lactic acid buildup. But say you just do one rep of your body weight on bench press. You're not going to have, you are going to have some lactate produced from that, but you're not going to have this huge buildup. Normally your body is able to clear that lactate, and you know, it's not really a factor. But when you continually bench press and you're doing rep after rep after rep, your body is going into hyperdrive in terms of producing the ATP necessary to do that work, but it's unable to clear the lactate fast enough. However, lactate can then be recycled back through the process and can be used to get ATP back. So it's not all like, you know, lactic acid causes DOMS or anything like that. That is all bullshit. Lactic acid is a normal byproduct from anaerobic glycolysis.
But it hurts so bad, Kieren. The lactic.
Yeah, and it is what hurts. It causes that burning sensation that you feel, that really intense discomfort. A really good example of that is if you're doing any sort of endurance work and your legs like literally are just fucking burning. That is lactic acid buildup or lactate buildup. But yeah, it's rapidly cleared through the body though. Like it's very, very quickly cleared, and it can be recycled back through the system. So lactate can be used to create ATP.
And continual like conditioning or whatnot trains your body to produce ATP more quickly, more efficiently, clear lactate more efficiently, like a bit of little from column A, little from column B.
Exactly, 100%. It's just more exercise you do, the more efficient your body becomes. So, like, think of your body as a machine, and every time you exercise, instead of like the machine, wearing down and just getting broken, it repairs back stronger, right? So Oil change. Yeah, not that.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. Yeah. So when we look at exercise, there's a concept known as the SAID principle, or the SAID principle, which is specific adaptation to imposed demands. This basically means that whatever type of exercise you do, or whatever exercise you do, your body will adapt to that specific demand. So if you are an endurance athlete and you do lots of endurance training, like VO2 max training, sprint training, long, low and slow training, then you're going to have a more efficient production of ATP in aerobic, your aerobic, and I mean, if you do sprint training, anaerobic energy production. Okay, so we're looking at mitochondrial density, more mitochondrial efficiency, and mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Back to high school biology, and yeah, so yes, the more exercise you do, or whatever specific demand you're putting on your body, you'll be more efficient at clearing lactate. You'll be more efficient at producing ATP. Yeah, a bit of both, really.
So then, obviously, there's lots of different ways to do conditioning, strength and conditioning, whatever. There's a guy on this very podcast that sells programs and platforms to facilitate you
buy my shit.
doing such things. So
yes,
instead of being like, this is the most proven way to get fitter for jiu-jitsu or whatever, etc., let's just talk a little bit about some of the drills that I like to do. No, well, I actually don't like doing them at all. I like making other people do them, and drills that I used to do, drills that when I say drills, I mean sort of like combination of drills / strength and conditioning, jiu-jitsu related stuff that I just kind of do with my students on my own, or things that, I did for years in Brazil back with Fabio. And we'll start with what what we were doing that made Hugo drop 8 kilos in under 5 minutes. Okay, through puking, which was, I think like a lot of conditioning, well, I guess exercise in general, it can be how much you put in, right? Like you said with your vom story, it was, you had never pushed so hard before. So, you could have one workout that looks significantly harder than another workout, but if you took the easier workout and pushed super hard, whereas if you were just coasting in the other one, right? Anyway, the workout was very, very simple. It was just 3 exercises, 30 seconds on, and 30 seconds on and 15 seconds of rest, right? Was the intervals that we were doing. The exercises were shots, which when you're doing shots for 30 seconds and you're doing multiple sets of it, man, like your legs start giving out pretty heavy. Like it hurts a lot. So it was shots, then 15 seconds rest, then it was sprawls, and then it was sit-throughs. That was it. They were the 3 exercises. But I had said to the guys that the idea is for you, for that 30 seconds, it should essentially be a sprint. You should be trying to get as many reps as you can in that 30 seconds. And you just need to remember the number of repetitions you did for those 3 exercises. It's only 3 numbers to remember. So if you did, let's just say, 20 shots in the 30 seconds, the next time through, because we did multiple rounds through, I think we did 4 times through. Usually I like to do, maybe we did 5. I can't remember. But, so if the first time through you got 20 shots in the 30 seconds, then the second time through you got 10, well, you're obviously taking the piss that second time through, right? Like I just wanted them to remember the numbers so they're within the ballpark of those numbers every time through, right? And then the last time through, I gave them an extra little bit of rest. So instead of having the 15 seconds rest, I let them have a whole extra round, which worked out to be like a minute's rest. And I said, guys, you're only going to go, you're getting a minute now instead of 15 seconds. you're only going to go through one more time. That's it. I said, however, whatever number you were hitting, you have to add 2. So if you were getting 20 shots, you have to hit 22 this time through. If you were getting 18 sprawls, you got to hit 20 sprawls this time, but it's the last time you got to do it. And that was the workout. These are sort of workouts that I've done since back with training with JT. We would typically do usually we would do 5 different exercises, and we would go 5 times through. But, when I was in peak getting ready for competitions, the ratio was a bit harsher. It would be 45 seconds of work with 15 seconds of rest, right? So it was way more intense. I was also 15 years younger and whatever. But and yeah, so that's what we did. And I've done these sorts of workouts for years. I did it during, you joined the gym after COVID, but during COVID lockdown and everyone was doing Zoom workouts and stuff, we were essentially just doing these sort of workouts through Zoom with the team, because you don't really need anything. And can make, again, like I said, it's how hard you push. It depends how strict is your form. If one of the exercises in there is squats, well, are you asked to grass every squat, or are you doing a little cheeky 45-degree squat, right? And yeah, that's the workout we did that Hugo puked like nobody's business. He broke him a little bit. But then, like I said, after the puke, he came back for rolls and, training every day since, and he's competing on Sunday. But I really like that type of, what do you call it? It has a name for it, right? When you do the
HIIT training
intervals. Yeah. HIIT training. It has a HIIT. What's the other word?
High intensity interval training.
Tabata is what I was thinking of. Yeah. But I really like that.
It's technically not Tabata, but yeah.
Yeah, Tabata is what is Tabata exactly?
Tabata is a very specific type of interval training that works. Tabata is named after the Japanese researcher that discovered it through this series of studies, and it's basically for elite athletes, it's the optimal HIIT ratio of 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. That is a Tabata, and it goes for 8 rounds. Total of 4 minutes. That is considered one Tabata round or one Tabata set. It's a total of 4 minutes of work. So what you're doing is similar, but it's not technically Tabata because it doesn't follow the 20-10 ratio. It has to follow 20-10 ratio to be considered Tabata. Otherwise, it's just HIIT training. Tabata is just HIIT training, but it's a very specific type. And the key with Tabata is it has to be an exercise that you can go maximal intensity on. So it's actually best to use Tabata in modalities like stationary sprint bikes, sprinting like running, or you can do it on a sprint treadmill and stuff like that, rather than doing Tabata with like burpees or something. Because with burpees, you have a high degree of muscular fatigue. So it is in muscle endurance fatigue. So what we're trying to do is tap into our anaerobic conditioning. Whereas if you're being limited by your ability to essentially do push-ups, then you're going to be hamstringing yourself and how efficient the Tabata workouts are, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So anyway, that's one of the ways I really like to do it. But then some of the other, for me, I definitely put that more as just that's essentially just conditioning and just trying to use jiu-jitsu movements rather than just doing a squat jump or something, right? Like shots, sprawls, sit-throughs, right? They're all jiu-jitsu movements. But whatever, I've also done that with just more standard conditioning movements, right? Like push-ups, squats, dips, whatever. All the other ways that I like to do conditioning, in the sense of, when I think about conditioning for jiu-jitsu, what I'm thinking about is essentially preparing people for competition, because, with the adrenaline of competition, the intensity of competition, not everyone or not every gym has every single role in the gym playing out in competition intensity. And even if it does, it's pretty rough on the body if every single role 5-6 days a week, if you're training twice a day, if every single roll is the intensity of competition, man, like it's pretty rough on the body. So I like to force my students into essentially mimicking that intensity. So the guard pull drill we do, which we've done for years, is by far one of the best ones. People who have listened to a lot of our episodes would have heard this one, but I'll go over it again for any newer listeners, because it's actually not only is it quite conditioning. I'm just using the word conditioning as an overarching, fatigue inducing, oxygen depleting, heart rate increasing movement exercise. So what we do, and this is tenfold. There's so many benefits to this drill for competition. So I'll go through all of them. But what you do, you have two people, and the rounds are 15 seconds with only a 5-second interval between the rounds. Unfortunately, Kieran's hearing this explained for like the millionth time, right? As it's been explained so many times to the students in the gym. And what one person's job is to make a grip and pull guard, not mess around with getting the optimal grip. It's a 15-second round. It's just make a grip and pull guard. Because in standard rules, you need a grip to be allowed to pull guard, with the objective of just establishing their guard. If they can sweep or submit the person in 15 seconds, that's awesome. But the idea is just to pull guard and establish. The person on top is letting them pull guard, but the second they pull guard, or even start pulling guard, as in start sitting down or whichever guard pull they do, they can go. And the idea is the person on top is blitzing to pass, like blitzing everything you've got for that 15 seconds. And this is like so many benefits. It's on top of just it being incredibly taxing cardio and conditioning wise, but it's getting you better timing. It's stopping you falling into that habit of letting people establish a guard. It's setting the tone of the match. If the match happens if this is at the start of the match, it's setting the tone, letting them know that, they don't need to know you can't do that for more than 15 seconds. You're just blitzing at the start. You could also flip the script. Maybe there's 15 seconds left in the match. You're down on points and the person is doing that typical, I don't want to get taken down and lose. I'll just pull guard. And like, if I can get them in close guard, very difficult to pass close guard in 15 seconds, So maybe that's the script that you want to play. It's that last you've got to pass to win, So there's just so many benefits to it. Then after the 15 seconds, it's a 5-second interval. You just stand up and it's the other person's turn to pull guard. And this, man, is really, really tiring. Like if you did 6 rounds of that, so as in you're going to do you're going to have 3 turns of pulling guard and you'll be on top for 3 turns. It works out to only 2 minutes of work. But I guarantee you, we do it for more than that many rounds, or at a minimum, we'll do 6 rounds and then you'll get a new partner and you'll do the same thing. But so, for example, we actually happened to do it last night, and we did it in 6 rounds and with 3 partners. So total work time worked out to 6 minutes. But man, like it's a rough 6 minutes, bro. Like you've done this heaps of times, Kieren. One of my really good friends, Ali, who owns Elements Jiu-Jitsu in Bahrain, he's like similar to me, black belt from Fabio in Brazil. He still does this drill to this day. And it is just so, in the words of Levi, it's just so fire, bro. It's just so fire for comp prep. It's one of my, punish to do, but one of my absolute favorite drills. And it's definitely from a scientific point of view, not sure medically what it is improving in terms of your cardio conditioning, but you be laying on the mat, gasping for air by the end of it. That's hard.
Yeah. It's a form of HIIT training, right? It's another variation of HIIT training. So everything we've spoken about to high intensity interval training, it's very similar. I'd say the benefit to that exercise, yes, you are going to get HIIT. You are going to get it's a good HIIT workout, but I think that the vast majority of the benefit from that workout isn't conditioning you. I think it's more training the intensity, right? Because unless you've tried to desperately pass someone in 15 seconds, it's very different from having a minute. And having a minute is very different from having 5, and which is very different from having 10. So I think the benefit for that, for me at least, and from like a sports exercise science point of view, is not necessarily the purely in the conditioning side. I think it's specific jiu-jitsu conditioning in terms of not necessarily your cardio fitness, but your jiu-jitsu game, your mentality, your ability to blitz, your ability to hold someone back from blitzing, knowing what works, what doesn't, that sort of thing, and getting into that mindset, that aggression. I think that's the vast benefit that you're going to get from it. If you're going into that workout like, hey, I'm only going to do this for my conditioning, yeah, it'll improve your conditioning a bit, but you're better off doing conditioning specific workouts. But this drill is very, like, you're not going to get any other way of learning how to blitz without doing like 12 fucking blitzes back to back to back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. Like, because you could be doing sand dune sprints, right? And it doesn't matter how much effort you're putting into that. Like, yeah, you can't get blitzing in jiu-jitsu anywhere else other than blitzing in jiu-jitsu. You know?
100%. Yep.
Yeah. I think, I mean, there's lots of drills I do, but the last one, so we don't sit here for 2 hours racking off every single, like, I like to do this drill and this one and this one and this one. But one of the ways that I really like to just essentially guide my students into rolling more intensely, or sorry, another really quick one I do is the equivalent of what I call jiu-jitsu sprints, right? Like, it'll just be multiple back-to-back 1 minute rounds, which, anyone who's trained long enough knows that 1 minute's not a lot of time, depending on the position. But I guess as a whole, 1 minute's not a lot of time to make something happen. So I'll often like line people up and they'll do a minute and then they've just got like 5-10 seconds between to quickly change partners. And it's just minute sprints. And it's just a minute you've got to score. Both people, you need to be embracing the mentality that you're down on points and you need to score to win, right? So I like to do that as well. But I just like to also design drills or a training mode that forces people to train harder, to roll harder. Not as in roll harder as in necessarily with more strength and, hurting each other or anything ridiculous like that. But sometimes if you get someone who's just a natural competitor, or if you walked into, you walk into the training room of, Atos headquarters and you got all the people going to Worlds, next month or whatever at the competition class, you don't need to do any, like, all you would need to do is say like, all right, guys, like, doing specific half guard, 3 minutes on top, 3 minutes on bottom. And the people are naturally going to train, like getting that pass or that sweep, the gold medal depends on it. Right. But, not everyone has that. Like, sometimes you need to put some consequences in place. So that's what I like to do, because I find I get more out of the casual jiu-jitsu practitioner who still may be very talented. Maybe they compete every now and again or whatnot, but they're not pursuing jiu-jitsu as a career. Sometimes they need some more strict consequences to really fight that sweep, that pass, for that submission, for the win to the death. Often that consequence is just the very tried and proven burpee consequence that no one really likes to do burpees, right? So sometimes I'll do a training. I like handicap training. One of my favorite ones is I'll go, all right, guys, it's I don't care about points or whatever. I don't care about you getting subbed or not. All that matters is that you come out at the end of the roll having submitted your partner more times than they've submitted you. And here's how it works. You walk into the roll, you both have 0 submissions, it's a draw. So you both have 5 burpees. If at the end of the roll it's a draw, even if I submitted you 5 times, but you also submitted me 5 times, at the end of the round, if it's a draw, we each walk away with our own 5 burpees and we have to do 5 burpees or 10, but whatever you want the number to be. But then if you win, as in you could have gotten tapped once, but as long as you tapped them twice in the roll, right, your reward is that you got to give them your burpees. And then that person who lost, instead of them doing 5 burpees for the draw at the end, they've got to do 10. That was their punishment for losing the round. You know, so sometimes I like to do handicaps like this. It's not, obviously that sounds like unfair if it's like a black belt versus a white belt, but I mean, you structure the class, right? So any way that I can really motivate students to push super hard, like to push past something that they think they're necessarily capable of. And I think that's also part of, you know, a quality that a good instructor should have, or a good teacher in anything, you know, to be able to guide a student into achieving something that they didn't necessarily think they were capable of, right? So I like to do that. And sometimes it's just very clear-cut burpee punishment for if you lose, right? A new one that I've actually started doing though, which I've started doing just to cut out a little bit of the middleman in terms of the feeling out phase of a roll, is I've started to do some rolls with the guys at the gym where at the very start, you've got to do 10 burpees each, right? And then the round starts straight away. So like you straight away start under a little bit of like stress and fatigue and right at the beginning. I kind of like I find it just cuts out a little bit of the middleman, and I quite enjoy it. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's all a placebo in my head, but that's one I've only started doing the last few weeks as a way to just sort of cut out a lot of the bullshit that happens at the start of a roll before the actual, you know, intensity and good stuff actually starts happening. When you already go in with having done 10 burpees, you're already kind of in that mindset of like, okay, yeah, here we go. You know, also really punishes you if you're not super fit, because that dude who is grabs your collar, shoots a blast double, and like, well, sucks to be you because you have no conditioning. You can't sprawl off the back of 10 burpees, you know? Like, so, yeah. So, but as a whole, that's what I try to do. I try to get my students to push through a barrier that they quite easily become a little bit complacent if you're not a student who is in pursuit of numerous gold medals and titles. If you're just someone who wants to get better and get good, like it's very easy to, and I would say most people do just kind of chill, if you will. Sometimes a bit of burpee punishment does the trick. You've been subject to
I
it
think
multiple times.
If we look at you know, what we're talking about is cardio conditioning and everything for jiu-jitsu. Everything that you described, all of those drills, that would definitely make you fitter. That would definitely improve your cardio. But in my opinion, and this is controversial, it's only to a certain ceiling. And that ceiling is a lot lower than what people think it is. So I think the true benefit from those drills for competition specifically is teaching people how to perform under fatigue, is teaching people how to be efficient with their movements, how to be efficient under fatigue, how to make good decisions, and how to push through when you're fucking tired. Because everyone's been at the end of a match, right? Maybe you are down on points and you have nothing left in the gas tank and you are just like putting everything out there. It's training that you're describing that, you know, you've been there before. You've felt it before. So you're still able to perform. And I've, you know, pulled off clutch wins right at the end under those conditions, right? However, from the research that I've seen specifically on jiu-jitsu, obviously more research needs to be done, but what the current evidence is pointing at is there is a ceiling effect to how much jiu-jitsu can improve, or rolling specifically can improve your cardio. So the old school mentality of, hey, I want to get better cardio for jiu-jitsu, and then the black belt says to you, just roll more. It's terrible. It's terrible advice. It actually does not work that way. And the reason for that is because, well, it's a lot of speculated reasons, but there is a ceiling effect on jiu-jitsu cardio improvement, right? So if you, the modalities that you're describing work really, really well for people that, I'm not going to say unfit, that people that aren't doing any other cardio outside of jiu-jitsu, they're not doing any other training or whatever, or their ceiling is lower. But for someone that is a competitor, competes regularly, that sort of training will improve their competition game, but it will not improve their cardio. So Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's
see what you
basically
mean.
the research that we've seen.
I think as well, one thing to consider though, just as like as a, as an overarching statement for a lot of people who can still be incredibly tough on the mats and can still potentially go and win a gold medal or whatever. For a lot of people, like their lifestyle only allows them to do jiu-jitsu in the sense that, the time that they make in their schedule for jiu-jitsu, it's like, well, it's either go to jiu-jitsu or go do this other exercise. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
You're talking about the person who works a 60-hour week and got 4 kids at home and whatever, like, and they can make it to jiu-jitsu 2-3 times a week. Are they really going to skip one of those to go do some not shitty, but, some unenjoyable cardio session?
Yeah.
Like, they're like, probably not.
No, I totally agree. And that's the reality of it. That's reality of what we're talking about. But to say what I get up in arms about and what I wanted to address, and I get really passionate and angry because I get so many people pushing back on this, but like, it's like, hey, what's your source? Oh, the source is just trust me, bro. When the same people that you're describing think that jiu-jitsu is making them cardio fit, or that are doing more jiu-jitsu to get cardio fit, or say, for example, if you aren't that person that does 60-hour week, you have all the time in the world, you're a young white belt and you're just frothing and you just want to fucking get better, you do anything, right? If you go into jiu-jitsu with, hey, my cardio is dog shit, my gas tank is bad, I need to do more jiu-jitsu, that won't improve your gas tank. It will improve your movement efficiency, which means you're using less energy, which means that you're conserving your gas tank. You aren't actually increasing your gas tank above a certain threshold. And so because I guess training jiu-jitsu doesn't improve your VO2 max above a certain ceiling. And that ceiling effect is quite low.
But yeah, like you touched on a point there, right? Well, it definitely, like there's a balancing act going on there. Cause like we said, earlier on, like there's nothing you could do that would make you better at blitz passing someone's guard other than drilling blitz passing someone's guard. Because it's
100%.
So absurdly
100%.
Dynamic and variable. You can't replicate that. The limitless possibilities that could play out in trying to pass someone's guard in 15 seconds other than doing it, right? So
yes,
it's the same sort of thing. Like imagine if someone said to you, like, I want to get fitter for swimming, right? And we know obviously like Olympic swimmers, professional surfers, they're in the gym lifting weights and doing whatever else to make them fitter for their sport, right?
100%.
They are. But imagine if they're, but then it's like, there is also that, well, being in the water. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's like you could be Matt Fraser level fit, but imagine if you were someone who was like, I still need to wear floaties to swim. You'd be like, okay, well, there's a part of like, you can also get fitter and more efficient and better at swim. Like, there's both, right?
Yes, I agree. Yeah. So when someone, again, same situation, they go to the black belt coach and say, I want to get better at jiu-jitsu. Well, then the answer should be train more fucking jiu-jitsu. And I agree with that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But
I guess I also
I want to get better cardio for jiu-jitsu, then telling someone to just go to more sessions isn't necessarily good advice. Only if their sessions are quite low. If they're showing up once a week, then but if you're doing 3 or 4 a week, you don't need to do 6.
Yeah. But I guess, kind of like anything, you can cherry pick bits of context and whatever. Not saying that's what you're doing, but like, cause it's what I'm kind of about to do. It's, cause I've said that to lots of people, but like I'll have students not necessarily come to me and say, I'm so unfit. Like, how do I get fitter? But I'll have a student who trains, and I'm not exaggerating this. I've been teaching for long enough. I'll have students who train, once a week, maybe they'll probably average 3 classes a fortnight, and then they sit there and be like, oh man, my gas tank's so shit. That's when I'm like, yeah, because you've got to train more, bro. Well, I mean, but it's both, right?
Yeah, 100%,
it's like
100% agree.
If you're
100%
exercising 3 times a fortnight, then the advice of, hey, just you're breaking a sweat in the hip escapes at the warm up, bro. Like, you've just got to fucking turn up more.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not necessarily going to go send you to go
and say, no, but if you grab someone, right? And here's where I'm going to agree with you and cement your point even further. If you take the same person that shows up 3 times a fortnight, right? So they average 1.5 classes per week, but they're doing like 5 weight sessions or like other cardio sessions, or fucking, they can be doing the sprints, they can be doing this, they can be doing that outside of the gym. They're still going to have a shit gas tank for jiu-jitsu because they're not
100%.
They're not going
100%.
to be moving well. They're going to be clunky. They're going to be using too much energy when they shouldn't be. They're not going to be efficient with their movements. Basically, their jiu-jitsu, think of it like, a hinge. It's a rusty hinge that's squeaking and cracking around. Adding more jiu-jitsu, here's an analogy, it's like adding a bit of WD-40 on that hinge. So it's smoother. You're going to be using less energy. So when we talk about gas tank for jiu-jitsu, there are 2 major components to it. There is your cardio fitness and there is your movement efficiency. Because it's such a dynamic skill-based sport, you need both. So when I say that the advice to just roll more is terrible advice to improve your cardio specifically for jiu-jitsu, that's only under the context that you're already training consistently. And it depends on who the individual is, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're doing 4 sessions per week consistently and you go to your coach, I want to get better cardio for jiu-jitsu because my gas tank is kind of shit in comps, and they say just do 6, that's bad advice. If you are doing 1.5 sessions per week, you go to your coach, hey, my gas tank sucks for jiu-jitsu, and they go, just roll more, then yeah, that's really good advice because your lazy ass needs to get to the gym more, right? It's contextually dependent. And that's what I sort of want to put out there. And again, there's a big difference between fitness, just fitness, and cardiovascular conditioning and fitness improvements. That's what I wanted to say. But I agree with you. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. But I don't know why you can't have both. Like, I don't know why both ideas can't exist in people's minds at the same time. And this is a little bit of like, stop reading the comments, Kieren. But I get people that have full-blown, like, nah, you're an idiot, just full-blown arguments with me about it. But they're not seeing that you can have both. You can have, on one hand, yeah, you need to do more jiu-jitsu to get better at jiu-jitsu. But on the other hand, if you want to have if you want really good cardio fitness, that's going to help you in jiu-jitsu, you need to do cardio workouts, bro. You can't just be doing fucking rolls, and you can't, like, even just rolling with more intensity it will still have a limited ceiling effect. So
agree. Just to cap it off though, what is the one thing we've said so many times, Kieren, when if you want to get fitter, stronger, lose weight, whatever it is, we say, what is it? The best workout is the workout, what, Kieren?
That you buy from KierenLefebvreBJJ.com. So go to KierenLefebvreBJJ.com right now. Click on whatever program you would like to get involved with. I'll answer any questions that you have. It's all there on the website, KierenLefebvreBJJ.com. On sale now. Just launched my new program. Make sure you get it.
I walked into that. Nice.
That's what we always say, isn't it? Isn't it, Adam?
Yeah. Yes. And then off the back of that, we say the best workout is the one that you do.
Is the one that you do. Yeah.
So like if
100%.
maybe someone is they just refuse to do any other complementary training or whatever, blah 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 blah. Okay, just
these drills could be a good,
to add another jiu-jitsu class, whatever it is, right? But yeah, I mean, yeah.
If your option is doing jiu-jitsu or not doing anything, then do jiu-jitsu. But all I'm saying is don't expect to get better cardio. Like, you're still going to get gassed out in the comps. It doesn't matter how many fucking comp rounds you do in the gym. And it's got a little bit to do with adrenaline, everything like that. But you're never going to be able to break through that barrier. And even at the world-class black belt level, because there was a meta-analysis done on the best competitors across all belt levels from blue up all the way to black. And what they found is their VO2 max, which is an indicator of peak volume oxygen uptake, your maximum volume oxygen uptake. So the gold standard for measuring cardiovascular fitness, they could not tell on paper who the black belts were and who the blue belts were based on their VO2 max alone. And they couldn't tell who won or who lost, or who were like the elite guys and who were like the, amateur guys based on their VO2 max alone. So that is one of the indicators that VO2 max is not improved through hard training, or the better you are at jiu-jitsu doesn't mean you're going to be fitter, right? But it definitely will help you, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying, bro.
All right.
So
let's finish off with a little bit of a gift. We've got a present for Kieren. Yay.
Hey.
All right. So
we're doing an unboxing. This is Beyond Jiu-Jitsu unboxing.
Well, we already know what it is, but I was a little bit surprised when it arrived at the gym. So I was like, "What, Kieren?" I was like, "What is this?"
Well, it didn't have an address. But, he wanted to send it.
Yeah,
didn't
that's
have an address.
right.
I had to give him something.
So I'll start opening it. Why don't you tell us the story with this, Kieren?
Yes. So way back in 1901, there was so Dylan, shout out to Dylan, our listener, a listener from the Kiwi land, from New Zealand, long-time listener, absolute massive supporter of the show. Big shout out to Dylan. He's a legend. I don't know, we're just talking on Instagram and I saw a photo of him with people, or he shared it or something like that, with pink belts. And I was like, that is really cool. I want a pink belt because, there it is. If you're watching the video version, you'll see Adam brandishing the pink belt. And because Adam doesn't allow any other gi other than white, black, or blue. So I can't have a pink gi. I want a pink gi. I want to represent. I want to have a pink gi. I'm not allowed to have one.
Let's see what size it is.
So the next best thing.
You keep talking.
It's A2. The next best thing is a pink belt.
A2 or A1.
I don't know.
It's probably an A1 size,
so,
I reckon.
But the story behind why Dylan sent me a pink belt is because it's to support breast cancer. So it's breast cancer, charity support. Pink being the color of the internationally recognized color of breast cancer support and fighting the good fight. So Dylan sent me out a pink belt. I wanted one, and he sent me one. So fuck yeah, thanks Dylan, you're a legend.
Well, let me tack onto that. I've always had this great idea, but never logistically put any effort into setting it up. And
that doesn't sound like you.
Yeah, I know. So feel free for someone, if you hear this, to steal the idea. I mean, and then invite me along. You do all the work and I'll just come along. No, because if whoever did it, the more the merrier. But I've often thought like it'd be really cool to do a big like one day seminar thing where you have multiple people, like, let's say it's just a local Australian thing. You're then going to have all the big Australian names like Craig Jones, Ari, Levi, all the big Australian names. And it's just this one day seminar and it costs X amount of money. Let's just call it $300 or whatever to do the seminar. And when you do the seminar, you also get a gi, which is a pink gi, right? Which you'd probably never wear again outside of the seminar, but it's a big seminar with, everyone in pink gis, and all the money, you would partner with a local gi supplier who would do all the gis and everything, and all the money would go towards breast cancer. So imagine, it'd be cool. You have imagine a seminar with like 100 dudes all in pink gis and everything, and all be for breast cancer.
That's what I think this belt was from. I think that's what this belt was from. They did something similar, except they had pink belts and all the money went to
well, that would be easier, right?
Charities.
Pink belts would cost way less, to get everyone in pink belts.
Yeah.
And
so this idea has been done many times. I think Girls in Gi do it as well.
Well, I actually spoke to Jess Fraser, one of the heads of Girls in Gis, about it, and she was all down for it. But then nothing ever. I never followed it any further.
Speaking of like stolen ideas, do you remember when I came up with the idea of going to a park or something in Sydney, and I was going to make it for YouTube and be like, hold me down and win $100?
Yes.
Someone has just recently done it. Yep. Someone's recently done it. And they changed it slightly, which is like, theirs is more catchier. You can win $60 in 60 seconds. So the same concept, exactly the same concept. Whoever's coming in needs to keep the black belt or whoever is doing it in mount, and they keep them in mount for 60 seconds. They win $60, and they just put it on like some mat space out the front of their gym as like, which is like a shopping complex, as like an advertisement sort of dealy, same concept.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
I don't think the execution wasn't like as crazy as I wanted to go. But they fucking did it. So I'm like I'm kind of filthy because I still have my notes and everything's dated. It was like, man, it was
we
like
had
this
spoken
time
about
last
it.
year
Yeah,
that we're talking about it.
Yeah.
But we just never executed. I think I got sick or you had surgery or some shit. Something went down and it got pushed back, and then it just like fucking Once something gets pushed back in time on my to-do list, it gets like you never see it again.
Hey, you mentioned surgery. I'm catching up with my knee doctor tomorrow. Yeah, I'm probably having another surgery on my knee. Yeah, I told you, man. I average one a year. It'll be my 4th knee surgery, but the third one on this knee. Yeah. Anyway, I'll let you know about that next week. While I've got the pink belt, so I don't really want to ship you a belt all the way to Sweden and
keep it. Give it to the gym.
So can I carry on the tradition of the pink belt that I had in my gym in Brazil? That there was one pink belt at the gym. And so whoever, black belts included, if you rocked up and you were like, shit, forgot my belt, you had to wear the pink belt. So
I like that. And tell you what, now I don't know if you would support this from like a business if it gets a bit sticky, but what I think we should do as well is if you forget your belt, yes, you have to wear the pink belt and you have to have like maybe a gold coin donation to a charity box, and that at the end of every quarter, at the end of every month gets donated to Breast Cancer Awareness Fund.
Yeah, or to whatever charity, like could be.
Oh, yeah, whatever charity.
Alternate the charities or whatever, yeah.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. Belts. I don't think people forget their belts often enough, but
maybe it would have to be once a year. I think maybe once a week someone forgets their belt.
Yeah, but then if it's like $1 a week to a fucking charity, I mean, it's better than nothing,
That's
right?
$52 a year, bro. That's $52 they wouldn't have had.
Yeah, I like that idea. I'll think about it.
Okay, well, maybe that idea is shit.
I'll think about some of the other, the equivalent of a swear jar, right? I'll think about some things.
Yeah, exactly.
Some do nots that people do. So like recently, I don't know if this was before you left, but I it just was kind of had enough of people not leaving their shit around the gym. I get it. People forget, a change of clothes or whatever. It was just like leaving.
Yeah, but when you leave your nasty rash guard or something.
No, it was even worse than that. When people mid-roll their Band-Aid comes off and they leave it on the mat and all the, shit like that. And I was kind of like, look, guys, it's your gym too. Like I provide a clean environment for you, but if something falls off your persons and you don't pick it up and put it in the bin, I said, here's the deal, right? If when you forget your stink-ass Band-Aid at the gym and I have to essentially keep it and clean up after it, then it's a two-way street. So when you forget your wallet at the gym, I get to keep that too. I said, that's the deal, motherfuckers.
Yes. No, I think that's good. I think if we could do some charity thing, so it's not like I'm
trying to think maybe another one that people do a bit
fun.
too often at the gym is walk outside the gym barefoot. That would be one that we could punish. That happens quite a lot. Be like, or like money in the charity jar.
Our gym's pretty good at people walking on the mat with shoes. It's only like random people that do it that don't know or whatever.
No one walks on the mats with shoes. I'll think on it. But for now, the pink belt will be.
But that one only.
Pink belt will be the you forgot your belt.
I like that. That is sick. I really like that. And the first person, you have to take a photo and put it. We'll put it on Patreon. We'll send it to Dylan. We'll put it on Instagram. The first person, don't tell anyone. Just hang it up. Like have it hidden or whatever. Or like.
Well, hopefully it happens before the 19th when this episode comes out.
Yeah, when this goes. Yeah. Oh man, the odds of it happening. It's Murphy's Law. It definitely happened. And so have it hanging up or something, and then don't tell anyone that it's the new.
Dan
belt
will start forgetting his belt every class on purpose. Dan will just want to wear the pink belt.
Yeah, he will.
Anyway. All right, guys. Well, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for listening. Someone will be wearing this pink belt shortly. Dylan, thanks for sending it. Cass, good job at Grapplemania. If you're still listening this far into the episode, and I enjoyed.
And I wasn't
Kieran's
joking about
story.
the new program being launched. If you want to
Oh
check it
no,
out,
he
link in
wasn't.
the
Yeah,
description.
yeah, I saw it come up. Yep.
Brand new program called BJJ.
Kieran does have a new program.
Shameless.
Check it out.
Shameless self promotion. Check it out. It's great. Best thing I've ever made.
Yeah. What do they say?
Yep.
Like, comment, subscribe. I don't know if it's in that order.
Like,
but
comment, subscribe.
yeah.
Oh yeah, subscribe to our YouTube and all that good stuff. But that's enough. That's enough shilling. Awesome, guys.
All right, guys.
Catch you
Thanks
in
for
the next one.
listening. Catch you next one.